Hey, look, thanks for all coming out tonight, giving up your evenings to listen to a bunch of over-30s geezers talk about their problems. I know you'd all probably be rather at home, sat behind the sofa watching the Brexit vote.
Behind?
Yeah, with your fingers over your eyes, like Doctor Who. Yeah. This came about a few months ago. I actually came here with the intention of doing a podcast for Coffee and Memes, which is my morning breakfast show where I play cantankerous drum and bass, talk about sex robots, pingers, lobsters, that sort of thing. But I was looked at sort of slightly, in a slightly confused fashion as to why I would want to do such a thing. But then found that the night before I'd done a live stream on YouTube with a friend of mine called Akira the Don, who is a wonderful human, on the subject of untangling mental health in music. And sort of went through some experiences I had last year and things that had been happening for, I guess, 5 or 6 years. And kind of, it gave me the ability to step back and take a kind of objective look at what was going on in the industry, what was going on for creatives, I guess, for the artists, for the DJs, for all sorts of people really within the music industry. And not just the music industry, in the kind of creative sphere as a whole. And I guess, stumbled upon what I kind of feel are some almost fatal flaws in the way we work in the creative sphere. And it would be nice to try and at least try and nail down what some of the problems are. Like, I did some research, did a lot of Googling, looked at a lot of articles, and there are a lot of articles that said things like, we have to talk about mental health in the music industry. We have to talk about mental health in the dance music community. And a couple of things struck me. One, the articles, all they were doing was saying how we have to talk, but not actually talking about it. And also, the dance music community sort of struck me as an odd thing, because we don't all meet up for lunch. Like, we don't go to the same church on a Sunday, or, have coffee mornings, or any of those lovely community aspects.
Oh, we do.
Do we? Oh, I've just not been invited. Shit, this is where it's all coming from. I've been blackballed already. And it felt like, well, one of the things which we will get to is a lack of community might be something that is affecting the dance music community. So to introduce my two guests for this evening, and also to apologise on Ben Verse's behalf, who can't be with us this evening because he has the dreaded lurgy, and he phoned in with his best poorly voice. And I'm inclined to believe him. He's a nice boy. But he's got the flu and he didn't want to infect us all. But good news, last year he released a compilation album called Mind State, which was to raise awareness and money for some mental health charities. And it had tracks on it by The Prodigy, Chase and Status, Subfocus, and some other amazing artists. And they've just been signed up to do Volume 2, which will be out later in the year. So let's see if we can get us on there. Bit of promo on that one. So to my left here is a DJ, a producer, with releases on the likes of Brown Records, Viper, Hospital, Mr. John Cyantific.
Hello.
And slightly further left, down to the far left of the table.
The far left.
Representing the far left. Is a man who is one of my favourite live performance artists, a technologist. It's had releases on Moving Shadow and also Frequency, Planet Mew, Beta, and has made some amazing plugins for Native Instruments. Tim Exile. So it's good. Spanner in the Works is all right, isn't it? Yeah. It's a good tune.
I don't even remember it. What does it sound like?
It's kind of raggy. It's fine. It's got a lot of stuff going on in it.
Raggy. Yeah.
I could hum it, but
we've got a fire alarm already. Be fine. Don't worry about it. It'll probably be fine. The fire exit's there, just in case. So I've kind of outlined what there are obviously a lot of factors that play into the issues that are facing people in the industry, mental health issues and things that are holding people back. I've sort of outlined roughly 6. There's going to be loads more, but these are what I felt were the most appropriate to myself and from when I started speaking to people about it, which is what you're supposed to do in these situations. I found that it wasn't the feelings of the minority. It was, in fact, the feelings of the majority of people in the industry, that everyone was sort of silently going through their own introspective struggles and nightmares, and not telling anyone about it. And if you don't tell anyone about it, then it's pretty difficult to deal with it and get it done. But before we get into that, I think it's an amazing industry, even for all of its flaws, to work in, and I feel very privileged to have been a part of it, and particularly to have been a part of the drum and bass scene. And so, to start on a positive, what first attracted you to the idea of trying to make a living out of music? Tim, go for it.
Trying to make a living out of music?
Making the leap into actually making a living out of the creative arts.
It's funny, because when we were talking about this before, you said you were going to ask us what we love about making music.
Well,
and it's actually quite, I mean, that therein is the rub, I think. That, the switch from, no one gets into making music because you want to make money out of it. You get into making music because you absolutely love it, and it's just completely... So, I mean, that's, what I love about making music is getting completely lost. There's, when I'm completely in the creative flow, there is no me. Like, I don't have any shit to worry about because I'm not there. It's just like a flow of creative juice.
Yes, the world just sort of falls away and you're in that flow state where time sort of ceases to exist.
Yeah, exactly. And there's, when it comes to like turning that into a career and making money out of it, there are definitely some joys to be had in that. But, I mean, it is a minefield, and there are all sorts of, to make some metaphors, there are all sorts of pits you can fall down in that. In terms of making a career, what do I enjoy about making a career out of it? Meeting people. Making an impression on other people with your own creative work, and also what happens when you get the sort of feedback from that and how that changes your own view and sort of expands your view of the world, and sort of, kind of cracks you outside of your little narrow-minded, egocentric shell. That's fairly abstract, but that's...
Well, there's also there's an incredible intoxication that comes from the live performance, and to be there with that throng of humans in a dark, grimy nightclub surrounded by madness, and to sort of be the leader, the captain at the helm of the good ship break corps, as it was at the time.
Yes. No, I mean that's complete magic. When you're there in the moment, just in the flow with a bunch of people kind of like on your side doing. I mean, it's thrilling, it's intoxicating, dare I say addictive, so also prone to all the potential pitfalls of anything that's addictive, really. So, yeah.
John, why music? Why did you get into this?
I'm still trying to figure that out. I guess I was about 14 and I started hearing sort of pirate radio, that kind of thing, and then I think it was Inner City Life came out, something like that, probably the first record I bought. And I just kind of, I wanted so badly to be a part of it. I knew that's what I was going to do. It didn't matter about sort of making, you didn't think, oh, this is going to be real money spinner. It was just like, the way this sort of makes me feel, I want to be able to do that to other people.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. It's pretty much as simple as that. Right.
Yeah, that's a feeling I can definitely empathise with. You said that your first clubbing experience was next door, which used to be Blue Note.
Yeah. That's probably showing my age.
That's where they used to do the early Metalheads nights that Goldie used to put on, and how kind of drum and bass really got started in that club, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it was like that era was kind of like people like Kate Moss, Naomi Campbell, they were all... It was like drum and bass was really cool at that sort of like 97. And I knew a friend of a friend worked for Metalheads, and I was 16, got snuck in there. And yeah, the thing is, seeing that kind of shit just blows your mind when you're that age. It's like, music when you're in your late teens is more special than at any other point.
Undoubtedly, but when you start to get into the idea of making music, and when you're first experiencing it in a club, you don't see at that point. You no longer you don't see the individual parts of the music. You don't see the that's the kick drums there, and they've got the snare in there, and that's all. And sort of you see how everything's attached. You don't see that. You just see the sort of block of magic coming out of the speakers.
That's it. It's literally magic. You're like, you have no idea how it's done, and you're just like, this is some kind of sorcery, It's like,
you need to find out how they make the special sauce.
Yeah.
And then it all goes wrong.
Well, that's the problem. You sort of take back the curtain.
Yeah.
And I was explaining this to my flatmate the other day. It's like, I've kind of got really into 60s music in the last year, just because I don't have to kind of break it down. I'm like, I can just listen to it.
Yeah.
I'm not kind of going, I wonder how they made that.
Yeah, if you listen to a type of music that you have absolutely no intention of making, then you can stop yourself picking apart all the threads.
Yeah, and it's so old.
Yeah.
And I have no idea how they recorded it. It's kind of it's just music, just enjoyment.
Nice. So look, to get into it, I've sort of laid out what I believe are the sort of 6 kind of fundamental elements of what is going wrong for people. I mean, and it's hard to know how widespread the problem is, but it's affecting people in all sorts of different ways. It's causing people to have anxiety and depression, and at the worst, it's causing suicide. Avicii last year. And people are dropping out of the industry at a rather startling rate. Hardwell, formerly voted best DJ in the world, has taken indefinite leave from the industry. Deadmau5 has signed himself off, citing mental health as the reason. And it seems even people who you would imagine are at the top of their game have their hidden demons. So the way I see it, yeah. So one of the fundamental things that I think goes wrong is isolation. Then we have unnatural comparison to others, largely through social media, a disconnect from one's audience, unhealthy lifestyle, a lack of community, and a loss of a sense of meaning. So I don't know how many of these we will be able to get through tonight, if all of them. I don't know if 3 podcasts is going to be enough to solve the crisis of mental health in the music industry. Maybe 4.
We'll give it a go. Yeah.
4 and an e-book. That'll be fine. We'll give away the first chapter free. So, I mean, the isolation one is one of the ones that it really, I can't believe I hadn't noticed it sooner. It took me, I don't know, 5 or 6 years until I really got to a terrible point to be able to step back and go, I'm spending 90% of my waking life in a room on my own with no windows. That's what we do to punish people who commit crimes. Yeah, I have imposed this peculiar lifestyle upon myself, and it started to make me go a little bit mad. People who get into music quite often are naturally performers, are sociable people, are people that are very likely to be very high in openness. They're going to be outgoing, sociable types, and people are shutting themselves in tiny rooms with poor circulation, no windows, and staring at a computer screen for 10 hours a day. Is there some way around this? Can we?
Well, I think, the perfectionism is the problem. That was always it for me. I mean, I remember my first kind of brush with the real darkness, I think, was my kind of early 20s, and that was when I was doing kind of releasing my early drum and bass stuff and doing stuff on Planet Mu. The kind of music I was making at the time was really highly edited. I wanted to kind of emulate the Aphex Twin stuff, the really hyper edited Aphex Twin stuff that was happening. And I really, I was propelled to. I wanted to make Aphex Twin music that was better than Aphex Twin.
Good luck with that.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, it didn't. Yeah. Turns out it didn't work.
Almost. It was close.
Yeah, it was almost. I'd lose track of time. I mean, computers are an absolute. They really suck you in, and they really play. The DAW, the digital audio workstation, is designed to suck you in. You know, you've got all the parameters there. You can tweak endlessly. You can get completely lost in it. And it plays to your perfectionism. Basically, I think the way music tech works these days plays to your perfectionism in the same way that social media plays to your need for validation, and it really kind of sucks you in. Yeah. So kind of I had my first kind of when I first got into therapy, that was kind of mid 2000s, early to mid 2000s. And that was, I look back at it now and I kind of blamed it on all sorts of things like relations with my girlfriend and friends and leaving university and all that stuff was kind of mixed into it. But I really exacerbated it by just spending hours. Sometimes I'd have like 20 hours at the computer on my own, and thinking that my way out of my difficulties was just to make that perfect track, and then it would all be fine, which is just bollocks. I mean, it's completely loony thinking.
It's kind of like you're being betrayed by, because you think this thing you love is gonna kind of dig you out of it, but
yeah,
it can be the worst thing for you, definitely.
Yeah, totally. And the thing, well, yeah. It's hard to get out of that. It's hard to get out of that hole. And I think in some way, well, for me anyway, I needed to like drive myself into a personal hell to realize, because at some point, like, you grip harder and harder and harder. It's gonna work. It's gonna work. It's gonna work. And then at some point, you just can't hold on anymore, and it all comes crashing down. You have a meltdown, and then like. The body, the mind comes back. You reach your limits, and then you have your breakdown or whatever, and then you're forced to let go of everything. You're forced to look at it, and then you see like the idiocy. Well, it's not. I mean, calling it idiocy is it's probably not a wise.
That's
way.
Problematic term.
That's problematic. Yeah. That's pretty problematic. But
microaggression.
Yes, exactly. That's a microaggression. It's got some food.
I did say that the last time I'd been in a public position with a microphone was doing stand-up comedy, and I should try and get out of the mindset that if someone had to go to the toilet, not to like mercilessly ridicule them, mock their appearance and like, everything. But Mark's going to get it when he comes back in.
So yeah, it's not idiocy. It's not idiocy.
Really down
lunacy.
It's lunacy.
It's the other C.
It's totally natural. It's the way like humans are set up to like we are wired in to like make everything about us, and the tools that we create are wired to like play to all that stuff because those tools want to be used. The companies who make the tools want those tools to be used. Yeah,
it's very tricky in the, unless people suddenly decide that they don't want new music. So, like, we've got enough music, that's fine. I think we've got all the classics now. Jackson's done most of them, that's fine. I think we're sorted. As long as we want new, consistent, great music, there need to be people making it. And an enormous amount of that is required to be in isolation, in a room, working very, very diligently at something which absolutely draws you in. So to work out what is the actual correct balance to be able to, because as a producer, you're no use to anyone if you burnt yourself out by completely ruining yourself by days on end of incessant fiddling and knob tweaking to no avail. You're no use to the people that are expecting music from you. You're no use to your partner. You're no use to your children or any other people that rely on you. Frankly, you're no use to society as a whole. And it's quite, but you want to be, like, the point is you're trying to make a product, you're trying to create art in a reasonable sense, and to also, that in and of itself is a product, and you're trying to do the best job of it. And it's very easy to plough yourself into it in a way that is actually detrimental to the final product. So working out what the natural balance is of studio life versus outside of studio life is important, because the world starts to almost close in on you after too long in the, in the basement room. And then when there are the comparisons to what you're doing to what the outside world, the abstract world outside is doing, that you see on social media. That, I mean, you were talking about early 2000s there, am I right?
Yes.
So even pre-social media?
Pre-social media, yeah, there were Dogs on Acid. I think it was on Dogs on Acid then. Yeah. But yeah, the incessant comparing of my inside to everyone else's outside wasn't it wasn't there as much. It was still there a bit, but it wasn't as infinite scroll.
Yeah, but this is the thing. It's like, even when there's something quite exciting going on in front of you, it can often be extremely difficult to tear yourself away from your phone, because what is contained within your phone is the abstract, and the abstract is kind of infinitely appealing because you don't know what it could be. But what is right in front of you, you can see what's right in front of you. That's there. That's not abstract. That's, I know what's going on here. I don't know, you're at a football game, you're at a concert or something, but infinite scroll, who knows what might come up? Yeah. It could be, it's another picture of someone's bottom. It's fine. Oh, it's so-and-so's posted a gig picture. There are more people at that than there were at my last gig. Mute.
Yeah.
The mute button is your friend if you're in there. Just me. Yeah. We can get in later to I have some ideas for cultivation of news feeds. But, I mean, you've basically gone off social media completely, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any kind of... I've got a personal Facebook, which is just controlling the page, which I don't visit at all.
I've been leaving all sorts of abuse on that page, and you've not seen any of it.
Well, my personal page.
Just your Cyantific artist page. Worst tunes ever.
No, I know. I look at that and I'll try and respond to people. I'll post stuff on Instagram, respond to people on Twitter, but it all fits within a half-hour window a day, because that's one of those things that I realised. I was like, this. I just kind of, I had a day where I was like, I've been on Twitter all day and Instagram going back and forth, and I don't feel very good. So I was like, I'm going to stop doing that, because that's, every time you go on there, all you do is compare yourself to, other people. And if you don't see it, it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just took that approach, and I really haven't sort of missed spending my time on there at all.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It's even though there's that whole no my phone thing of like, I'm getting a bit anxious. I haven't had my phone. It's run out of batteries. I'm a bit anxious about it. You're like, I really wish I was scrolling Instagram right now.
But that's
that
it.
would be so good.
Well,
I'd really like to be doing that. Yeah, it's the sort of muscle memory that has become natural of as soon as the phone comes out again, and then it's like,
well, an hour a day makes a week a year.
Yeah,
a solid week. I don't think I'm going to be on my deathbed if I'm lucky enough to sort of,
How many people get a deathbed?
Exactly, exactly. But I don't think I'm going to...
They do them at IKEA, I think.
Do they?
Yeah.
Imagine assembling that. It's depressing assembling IKEA furniture as it is. Assembling your own deathbed.
Yeah, with like some funny umlauts over the...
Yeah. There's a funny comedy sketch in there somewhere, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to regret sort of not having spent more time on social media.
But the memes, John.
I know,
what about the memes?
I know, but I think I can do without.
And you're missing out on some serious dankness.
I could just watch Family Guy or something.
Yeah, I've often wondered what would happen to one's career if you just came off all of them. Would it be possible to be a producer and not have any artist social media whatsoever?
Calibre break.
Do they?
Yeah.
They make better records than me, though. Well,
this is the thing.
Therein lies the problem.
But it's part of their whole thing. It's kind of like, and for a long time, Subfocus was really anonymous, and I think that was part of it. There was still a bit of that old school mystique, which you don't have anymore, which apparently, you know, you can kind of do it the other way around and be famous for. It's like, you know, that Takeshi
6ix9ine, yes.
I've never heard
Delightful
any of his.
gentleman.
Yeah, I've never heard any of his music or anything, but I know what he looks like, and that's not through choice. You know, it's kind of that is how it works nowadays.
Yeah, his ridiculous face would be forever burnt onto my retinas, I think.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
Yeah, it's also the whole thing with social media is you're comparing, you know, your reality on your sort of bloopers reel version of your own reality, because no one thinks of their life in terms of highlights. You tend to think of it in terms of the negative aspects of your life, and you compare that to other people who are only posting this sort of rose-tinted highlights reel of their career, of their life, and you're like, oh, why are they playing more gigs than me? Why are they on that lineup and I'm not on that lineup? They seem to have.
Well, that's it.
What's going on here? This
Like,
is not fair.
That doesn't make you feel good, right?
Yeah.
So
So,
I mean, you know, you can still post and you can still reply to people who say things to you. You know, engage with people, but scrolling through, I didn't find anything good about it for me.
Mark, what'd you get for your dinner? What'd you get? Oh, you just got pints.
Pints for dinner.
Liquid dinner. Unbelievable. This guy. I think social media obviously has its place, and a part of the thing which I feel here is that there's a real disconnect from one's audience. Like, even if you take the art and creativity out of it, if you worked in a job and you had no idea how your work was ever received, and you turned up, you did your work, doing what you thought you were expected to do, and no one at the end of the day or week, you never had any sort of appraisals or meeting with anyone, you weren't really told as to whether or not your work was up to standard or, you know, how it could be improved, or there was no discussion about it, no feedback, nothing, I think you would also go slowly mad. So there needs to be some sort of feedback with the people that you're actually aiming to please, that you're aiming to create for, that is not just your market, but your audience of, I guess, you know, say fans, but it's slightly different to that now. There is more of a there can be more of a dialogue between, you know, the creator and the people receiving the creations. And so there needs to be a way to try and find that, and it's difficult to do it outside of social media. Like, yes, you can create a Facebook group. I have a Facebook group for Threshold, which is predominantly sharing of memes and arguing about communism, but, you know, sounds like the internet. But it can also actually start to cultivate a community, even if that community is online. It was forums, of course, back in the day, Dogs on Acid, Drum Bass Arena, which, for better or worse, shaped a lot of us. Yeah. So it's there. I don't know if like you're looking to try and building communities through the music is something I know you're keen on, Tim.
Yeah.
And trying to make it more of a dialogue rather than a product and a end user.
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing I'm doing now, I run a company called Endless. We're making a collaborative platform for music making. We haven't launched yet. We're going to be launching soon. And the reason I started that, partly because my solution to kind of getting fed up with being stuck in the studio and then making records, being all perfectionist, and then them coming out like a year later and just being totally not into them by the time they were out, was to get into. I made myself an instrument for improvising, and then I just did live shows, completely improvised live shows. So all the music making happened in the moment. There was nothing planned at all, which meant that the whole process of creation happened, you know, in front of an audience, and it felt really engaging. And as soon as I finished that instrument, there was this kind of like watershed year, 2009, where I had an album out. Actually, weirdly enough, I did the launch in that room there. Anyway, a bit of contextual trivia.
Nice trivia.
Nice trivia. Yeah. So, but then I was doing shows with this instrument. I was kind of going between like singing songs from the album and then doing this improv stuff, and I was just like way more into the improv stuff. So ditched making records, started developing technology for improvising, and then basically figured out after a certain point that like the most potential wasn't me as an improvising artist. It was like taking this technology to other people to basically to solve some of the problems. Well, not solve, but like create another path for like being musically creative. That offers an alternative to being locked away in rooms for days on end, perfecting tracks and like trying to cut through the noise.
Within a fairly rigid sphere as well of what a track actually is, structurally,
yeah,
the way it's put out into the world, the way it's received, the way it's approached.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, the way the recording industry has evolved, 150 years ago, recorded sound hadn't been recorded. Music was a social activity. It was something that brought us all together. We'd gather around a piano, or we'd gather, in a sort of folk ceilidh or something, and everybody would be involved. The music only happened when people were there doing it. So it brought people together. Fast forward to now, and you've got the problems that we're talking about tonight. And so, what I started Endless to do is to kind of bring back some of this sort of pre-Edison vibes to try and find a way of being musical that. Well, it's recreational. It's not about making tools for pros, because I think one of the problems is that because we're so perfectionistic about music, because the tracks we make have to be good enough to go on Spotify, and everybody expects that nowadays, then you just have to be a badass. There's no two ways about it.
It almost it's turned into a battle of wills, because I know there's. Like Mephius, drum and bass artists.
Boo. I'm only joking. I love him, but his tunes are too good.
No, but he'll comfortably spend 2 months on a mixdown. And it's like, I can't compete with that because I can't be fucked.
Yeah, like, 2 months mixing down one track.
And fair play.
I mean, fair play to him. It shows.
But like, I can't.
He's ruining it for the rest of us.
That's a battle of wills. It's like he's willing to go that far.
Yeah, and the problem is really like the context. We need to have a context where music that has been created in half an hour like makes sense and can be consumed, if that's how you want to put it, or shared or participated in, and there isn't, because this is what the way, the song format, the track format, this is the way it's gonna push us. The quality is gonna go up and up and up, and people, the visibility also goes up and up and up. So people want to do it, and it kind of nets us like, well, I'll talk about myself. It nets like narcissistic perfectionists like me to like try and make this amazing music, and then often just drive myself into hell trying to do that. So, yeah, I mean that's what we want to do with Endless is like open up a new arena for like to make music about something different. That's it's not about the outcome. It's about doing it and how you can do it together.
Yeah, that's where the community aspect of it will come in. Music is like, I mean, in certain senses, obviously, yes, it is a community aspect. Like if you're in a band, or if you're in a choir, or if you're in a club, like if you're just receiving it, then I mean you're not part of the music creation at that point, but you're enjoying it surrounded by other people, or presumably having a good time if it's not someone terrible DJing. But otherwise, like there's this whole element of music which is totally private until it's a finished product that has to be, right now it is ready, and I've compared it to. I mean, there's literally the part of production at the end of making the record where you're doing a mixdown, where you actually have someone else's 2 or 3 other people's tracks in your project, comparing them, going back and forward, A and B, to make sure that yours stands up to theirs in terms of like sonic reference and just like it's a very, very strange and I think deeply flawed way of going about doing it. And someone like Mephius who's prepared to spend 2 months on something, and then for me to sit there and go, all right, well, I guess I'll stick a Mephius tune in to compare mine to. And then the tears, they stream down my face.
That's it. That's never going to make you feel good,
So we kidnap him, and we...
Yes, put him to work.
Yeah.
Put him to work.
Yeah. Turn him into an AI.
Yeah, well, that'd be nice, isn't it? Those there are a few kind of AI mastering things, but yeah, there's one called
Lander.
Yeah, Lander.
Lando.
Yeah.
Lando.
Calrissian.
Don't know.
Star Wars.
Right. Okay. No. I don't think I've even seen all 3 Star Wars films. Can you imagine that?
Get
How
Out.
does that make you feel?
Well, I'll have to get out as well then. Sorry.
God damn, who am I sitting next to? Yeah.
Okay, so look, aside from the sort of comparison to others, which is, I mean, this human nature to compare yourself to others, but in order to try and get out of that being like the only thing, particularly when it comes to releasing your product and to trying to involve other people in the music making process, and to build that community aspect of it. I mean, even if you couldn't play an instrument 100, 200 years ago, you could hit a drum.
Yeah.
In roughly in time. Most people can hit a drum roughly in time, and that's fine. You're sort of a part of it going on there.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you were to take DJing and it wasn't just an hour or 2 hours a week with an enormous amount of stuff either side of it that goes into that, and it was like, well, I'm just going to the office where I DJ for 4 hours to 200 people.
Yeah.
Then that could be, that could be really good. But aside from that sort of dream happening,
Yeah.
I think there need to be some other routes in terms of getting outside of the traditional orthodoxy of the way we release and receive music.
Yeah, because I think, I mean, it's so unique to music. Like all other media have had these revolutions where, last century, video and images were all produced by big corporations who employed professionals who would spend days in darkened rooms making the content that they would then broadcast and we all consume en masse. But nowadays we've got Snapchat and Instagram and all these other platforms where you make videos and you make images and it takes 30 seconds and you share them with a small group of people that is your community, and then they might share an image back or a bit of text or something like that. So all other media has a whole range of different contexts and purposes, which you can, so on Twitter, you could just open a Twitter account and maybe you're quite funny and you start writing some funny tweets and then people, one of your tweets goes viral and then you're just okay, maybe I'll start a blog. Then you start writing blog posts. You open a Medium account and then start writing 1,000-word pieces and people get into that. And then after that, you can then start writing short stories and then move up to books and stuff like that. All of the time, the content that you're creating is relevant and you're building stuff up. You can't do that with music. You have to go straight. It's straight to novel. Relatively speaking, you have to write. If you want to do anything that counts as music, you have to do the equivalent of writing a novel, which
it has to be amazing from the get-go. You can't go, here's this track I've made, it's dog shit, but I'm hoping they're going to get better. Please come along for the ride.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, and that's it. Drum and bass as well is very unforgiving.
Yeah, I think it has the highest standard of production in...
Yeah, you're not going to get anywhere unless you meet somewhere near that standard. So you're right, it is people are being forced to write a novel before they can even put out a short story. Yeah.
You have to do a tremendous amount of work in secret, effectively, before you then release your project onto the world for the judgment of others. Yeah. And hopefully it's up to scratch, because if it's not, no one's going to listen to your next one.
Yeah, and it'll be crushing.
Yes. Well, yeah, as they say, you're only as good as your last shit dubstep release. I think that's how the saying goes.
Yeah, I think it was Shakespeare, wasn't it?
I think it might have been, or Carl Jung, possibly.
No, sorry, Jung. Yeah.
Also, something that obviously goes very hand in hand with particularly DJ lifestyle and too much time in studio lifestyle is just general unhealthy, physically unhealthy habits. So, of course, drinking drugs at shows, not sleeping, travel in insane travel schedules when you're on tour, the strange juxtaposition between being, this sort of center of attention on stage for an hour and then going to a hotel room in a country you've never been to before on your own for the next.
Well, yeah,
how
and
long.
then coming back on a Monday,
Yeah.
being like, now I've got to sit in my box again.
Yeah,
You
back
know?
in your box.
Yeah.
Come
Yeah.
on, back in
No,
your box.
it's
Makes it.
particularly after a long tour
Yeah.
where you've you know, it's kind of, it's like it's your birthday every day. You know, you're going to.
Sometimes they actually give you a cake.
Yeah.
You've seen Steve Aoki? He just
Exactly.
wastes
Exactly.
it. He throws it at people. It's insane.
That's his thing, isn't it? No, it's like, you know, you're having this amazing time. If you enjoy touring, some people hate it, really hate it. But, you know, you're out there every day, really sort of on the other side of the world, perhaps seeing stuff that's interesting and having a great time. Then all of a sudden, yeah, you're sitting on your own again. Like, you know, it's the polar opposite.
Yeah, waiting for a cancelled flight or, you know.
Well, no, I
something
mean,
along those lines.
when you get home.
Oh,
and
when
you're
you actually get home,
I've got
yeah.
to sit and write music now, and, you know.
It's
It's
thing
like
is,
post-holiday blues times 1,000.
yeah, I mean, obviously, like, but there's always the concern. Like, we talk about this, and my concern is that people listening from the outside think, like, we get paid to DJ, like, and you're complaining about it, you animals, you know, like. But it's a strange, you know, it's a strange existence for the time that.
Yeah,
you're
you
on the road.
can't
It's-
really, until someone sort of comes along with you and sees, you know, gets to see what the actual reality, the fun part is quite short.
yeah.
It's like Matrix said to me one time. It was like, we get paid to sit down.
Get paid to travel, yeah. Well,
Yeah. We're getting paid to sit in a car, sit on a plane, sit in a car, go to a club.
Sit in a car at
Sit in a
6
car.
o'clock in the morning, driven by a drunken Polish promoter who is trying to get you to the airport on time at very high speeds. Didn't you nearly die on a trip
Yes.
where with the U&Q project? Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, basically, there were drugs involved with the driver and the name you just said. And yeah, you know, next day we sort of had a crash in a tunnel on the motorway, went across 4 lanes of traffic, thought I was going to die. You know, everything was in slow motion, hit the side of the tunnel, car was written off. Q Project gets out and he's like, didn't even spill my beer. But
Is it invincible? What's going on there?
yeah, he's kind
Is
of
that
like
when you're relaxed, you're in a sort of lubricated state, and you know.
he's kind of like one of the Rolling Stones or something. It's like I don't think he'll ever die. He's consumed too much to die.
Just mummify himself gradually.
Yeah.
Like Mick Jagger.
But yeah, those are the kind of things that can happen on tour as well, which can have psychological effects. You know, I'm really weird about sort of being a passenger in a car now.
Yeah, same, tremendously. If ideally they'll let me drive. Like I will try.
Yeah.
Always. Do you mind if I drive? Like, would I be insured? Yes, I think yes. You would be. All right, I'm driving then. Like it's weird. Or like
Yeah.
or particularly.
No, but I mean in normal life. It's
Oh, really?
transferred to normal life. It's like
from Raji promoters.
Yeah. I'm not.
Oh, God.
I'm not into being a passenger in a car now.
That's a strange negative symptom of the music industry. Like, it's not one that people would foresee, I think.
Well, the way some of my ex-girlfriends drive, you know who you are.
So obviously, like the unhealthy aspects of the industry and the sort of lifestyle of it can creep into not just when you're in clubs. Like I have numerous friends who the alcohol and cocaine crept into just studio use on their own, which is something that it seems a lot of people can end up whereby the studio is the place that is a sort of escape from reality, but not in the positive way that you hope that it would be. Like, oh, this is my little pod where I can go and make the music and get into the flow state and stuff. And it turns into, this is my little personal hell that I've created where I take the drugs and you know, and I just, you know, and if I close the door in here, then if I'm in the studio, that must mean that I'm working and productive in some sort of sense. But when you're not being productive, you're just, you know, filling yourself with things that you shouldn't, it's very easy to, you know, completely lose track of things. It's
yeah. I mean, did you heard about, was it one man who, I'm sure he did something about, he had problems with, I think, Xanax.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like similar kind of thing, just turned into, it went from DJing, like I need it, sort of surrounding DJing. And I've definitely been there with that, with Valium. You know, I'm flying and stuff. It's kind of like, oh yeah, we'll just kind of take the edge off, and then...
People don't realise how addictive things
It's
like
very
Valium is.
Moorish,
It's, Jesus, it's like this sort of warm security blanket that makes everything soft and nice. Why would you not want that the whole time?
Yeah, completely. And for our line of work, it's very appealing.
Well, yes, it's particularly a line of work whereby you can get away with not being sober the entire time.
Yeah.
No one's, you know, in front. Oh, hey, he's a party guy. He's always pissed.
Yeah,
don't worry
that's
about
it.
it. Like, hey, we'll get him down again. He loves the Jaeger bombs.
Yeah,
Come
some
on.
people celebrate it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we need to book him again because he's fun.
Yeah, and you're obligated to be that sort of fun.
Yeah,
person.
some people are like, you know, you go and play at their party and they're like, oh, you're not coming to the after party. It's like, no, I'm 35. I want to go to sleep. And, you know, I've had a couple of beers, that's it.
If I was at home, I wouldn't start watching a film after 9. You know,
it's like, I need to get up.
This
but
is
they cannot understand that.
Yeah, I mean, and this is where things, for say, someone like Avicii, obviously, you know, it took a significant nosedive. He was drinking an enormous amount as expected to almost be this kind of godlike character.
You have those people around you who are sort of, because he must have had people in his kind of immediate circle. They kind of, they're more entourage-y than...
Facilitators, really, yeah.
No, but I mean, in drum and bass, it's often just you.
Well, it's just, I mean, there's not much money in drum and bass. So
well, But if you're in that kind of industry, it's, you know, house, it's sort of... It's quite likely you'll have a lot of people around you. And if they're the kind of people who are like, yeah, come party.
Come on, party boy.
Yeah,
we're paying you an enormous amount of money. You better bring the party.
Yeah, do a fucking dance and take some cocaine.
Take these drugs, do a dance. Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and who are you to say no, really, under those circumstances? It's a difficult situation to find yourself in, and the higher up the ladder you go, the more it's expected of you. Like, you don't want to be that boring guy. It's like, no, thank you, I stopped using drugs a number of years ago. And, you know, I just make the drum and bass, and I'm just here to play drum and bass.
Totally, I'm well into that.
I'll play that
just very
card.
malleable at gigs, so, you know, I'm a real pushover. I'm a people pleaser. Maybe. All right. No, I'm fine. It's sort of like, I've got it under control. And that, like, you know, we're getting towards an hour now, and so we sort of just touched on a lack of community earlier, but one thing that a lot of people, their community is their work, and it sort of is, if for music, if you get a gig that a couple of other DJs you know really well are also playing at, but that's like every few months or something for a couple of hours. That's not a significant bit of community nourishment, like so maybe it could be important for people in the industry to start looking outside of the industry for their community support.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, you need to be part of a sports team. You need to be part of a choir. I mean, this is the sort of aspect that really, pre-Enlightenment, religion would have failed. Yeah. Like, you know, you would go to the same church and you would, and again, where the meaning sort of factors in, because, you know, now we're all above this whole religion thing. All of this oldie-worldy nonsense. No, we're too smart for that. Oh, Skyman, big beard, no chance. But, you know, there were some elements of the community aspect of that and the meaning that are actually very important and are sort of intrinsic to human happiness and well-being. And so maybe and obviously spending 90% of your life in a room with no windows is not a healthy way to go about your business, and perhaps there needs to be a focus on trying to find other communities that you can be involved in on a ideally daily basis.
Yeah.
To, you know, music isn't necessarily going to give you everything that you need.
Yeah. Well, that was basically why I left Berlin.
Right.
So I was in Berlin for 3.5 years. I mean, I had a great time on the whole, but then think it just sort of started to started to get quite unhappy. And I realised that basically, you know, there was quite a sense of community there. You know, I had my nice expat music and tech friends, and you know, I'd hang out. I was always on the guest list at Berghain. You know, it was all like woo, Berghain. So, you know, so it was cool and it was fun, but I only hung out with like musicians and tech people and people like around those industries, and I realised that, you know, I still, you know, I had back home in England, I had my family, I had my friends from school, I had my friends from university, and they're all, you know, quite a kind of diffuse bunch of people, and I realised that my life was totally 1D. So one of the main reasons to move to London was to have a you know, more balanced life, and you know, more balanced people, to kind of like hear perspectives that weren't just kind of really in this kind of like echo chamber, the music industry echo chamber.
Well, Berlin is like a sort of hipster purgatory where people move to and just sort of don't really do anything.
Yeah, no, it's
like a fairground for adults where you can smoke cigs on all the rides.
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
It's
no, it is great. One. I mean, I totally go back to. I totally would go back to Berlin. Well, what was that vote this evening? But anyway, we'll see.
No chance.
But yeah. I don't know. I think if I went back to Berlin, I'd kind of approach it in a slightly different way, because, you know, you do kind of like make your surroundings as well in a way. So like the way I moved to Berlin and like what I wanted to do when I moved there was I just wanted to do music and tech, and that was all. And so that's how my life ended up looking. But like by the time I left Berlin, I was just like, okay, I've had a number of burnouts and meltdowns, and you know, I've done a decent bit of therapy, and you know, I know that my life has to be a bit broader than this. So that's when I moved back to London. There were like other things that I wanted to kind of add to my life as well. So what was the question? What were we talking about?
Lack of community.
Lack of community. Yeah.
I can read it from here.
Oh, cool.
That's very good eyes.
Yeah. So when I moved back to London, I got involved with Buddhism and like the London Buddhist Centre and stuff. So that's become a like really integral part of my life.
You're gonna try and convert us?
No.
You're proselytising.
Buddhists don't do that. It's your
too
mind.
Nice, isn't they?
It's your mind. You can look after it.
I'm trying. I'm very interested in the sort of, I guess, the psychological aspects of sort of religious story and mythos. It seems like that perhaps there might be something more to it than, you know, a lot, like we spoke about this on the phone the other day, like, you know, the sort of Jungian ideas of the archetypes contained within biblical stories, and how, like, you know, there's stories that have been sort of iterated over thousands of years. It's like, you don't need to take these things literally, but like there's some interesting lessons contained within stuff. And like,
I mean, the problems with organised religion are just like literalism. It's, you know, people like taking kind of really abstract concepts that are trying to point at something that like is ultimately like can't be pinned down and is like completely unexplainable, and then turning those into culture and then turning those into some kind of fact. But I mean, you know, it's different for everyone. I mean, I've always been open to that side of things. You know, when I was a teenager, I got involved with Christianity for a bit and then got uninvolved with that because it didn't really work out for me. But you know, it's different for different people. Some people find that much more challenging. I don't. I mean, I'm very happy to be reverent to something bigger than me. In fact, actually, I kind of like fall to bits if I'm not. So like, you know, bringing that back into my life when I came back from Berlin, or well, into my life really, that's like had a significant positive effect on my life.
Well, the idea of, yes, of focusing on something that is sort of bigger than you, and if that thing can be your meaningful purpose, like maybe maybe your version of God in a way is the highest possible good you feel that you can achieve.
Yeah.
Then that might be a sort of ideal or optimum way to point yourself in reality. Because if you don't have meaning in what you do, and effectively then what you're doing is meaningless. And again, if you don't have an aim, then you're aimless. And it's these things that happen when you've spent, say, 10 years in an industry and you're at that point whereby you just feel like you're spinning your wheels because you're no longer being creative, because you're so ingrained in the ways that you're working, and at this point you are a cog in a machine that's just churning out you're just a content creator that's just putting out things to hopefully pay the bills and to hopefully keep the people who are helping, like coming to your gigs or facilitating your bookings or whatever, happy. And you don't have that sort of burst of creativity anymore that, really when you first start making music, the real joy and the real meaning in it is the learning and the creativity involved in that. Because, the day you start making music, if you look at how your tracks are that day compared to how they are a year later, the difference is absolutely phenomenal. But if you're 10, 15, 20 years into the game, like, how different are your tracks a year later when they may even be worse?
Well, yeah, it's the creativity gap.
Yeah.
Between what you picture you want to make and what you're capable of making is massive at the beginning.
It's still massive for me now. I don't
No, but it does get it gets smaller as time goes on. You learn more things, but maybe that is kind of like taking a bit of the magic off it. It's kind of, I don't know.
Well, it's
different for everyone.
It's, 10, 15 years into the game, you know how the magician does his tricks. You know how he saws the lady in half. The curtain has been pulled back, and therefore the magic is sort of like, it's time to change the game. It's time to flip it and work out how it can be consistent, because it does matter. Like, these are people's lives, these are people's working lives, and obviously it's optimum for people to have working lives that they feel are meaningful and that they're happy about, because a happy person pursuing meaning is someone that can be useful and well orientated in the world for their friends, their family, for society as a whole. And it's obviously, you want to start with yourself and start with those close around you and try and push things forward from that side.
This kind of brings to mind a point as well that I thought about before, which is, when you're sort of deep in your music career, it's like, it can kind of, I don't know if you've come across this, it can be kind of hard to sort of split your personal life and the kind of pseudonym.
Yes.
It's like you become.
You've taken on the surname.
Yeah, you become. You're not Clark Kent, and and
I just put on some glasses, no one will know it's me.
You're somewhere in fucking between it, and that I think that was in my mid-20s, and it was perhaps my late 20s. It was kind of. It's really confusing to detach yourself from that pseudonym. It's I'm sure there's sort of some real, like, a psychologist could have a field day kind of going through that. It's like, you've created this name, and you're kind of, you turn into it. It's like,
I've always wondered,
is that you?
Well, yeah, that's the question. I've always wondered what it's like for people to just use their own full name as their DJ name. Like, is that a good idea? Is that a bad idea? Like, if someone writes a shitty review about you, that's really personal.
Maybe they change their
name. You've at least got an alias in the way.
They probably change their name when they quit.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
They review your cooking, they review your cleaning. It's the whole...
Hey, look, guys, we've done an hour here now. There's an almost infinite amount of stuff to cover on.
But I think we nailed it, didn't we?
You reckon?
Think we sold it all.
Finally, right? Maybe we'll focus on world peace next.
And then,
well, look, thanks for coming, everyone. does anybody have any questions or things that they would like to bring up, or I don't know, ideas, concerns, criticisms, abuse they want to hurl at us, heckling?
I want to know, what happened to your moustache?
It's under there. It's just there's other stuff around.
It was longer though.
It was, yeah. Well, I'm gradually
miss-
phasing it out. Well, I made house music for a while, and you need a beard rather than a moustache for house music. So.
I miss the kind of
complicated.
Moustache for drum and bass.
I was the only one. That was,
Oh,
that was,
right,
where,
I
that was
see.
my
Okay,
USP.
okay.
That was the only thing. That and dubstep records about cats. It was fine. Look, thank you for coming out, guys. It's been, I hope it's been an interesting conversation or a valuable conversation to people. I hope that, you know, people that are in the industry or in any creative industries just know that you're not alone if you're feeling any of these things. It seems that there is an enormous amount of people out there that are feeling a very, very similar way. And
pretty much every person
Everyone.
I speak to
Yeah.
in drum and bass certainly has at some time had issues.
yeah, and it's certainly not something to be ashamed of, and it is something that you should be talking about with your friends, with your family, with the people that you work with, and getting help and looking to, you know, people want you to do well. Everyone wants their friends and their loved ones to do well, and so they're more most certainly likely to help you get better. So thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.